So to our in-person crowd, thanks for being here. To those of you who are joining us on Zoom, welcome. So just so you know, we are pretending that we can see you up there in the balcony, and but we may forget. So welcome, and I'd like to introduce you to all of our candidates from the ACCCA, and then over on the end over there, we have the ACC candidates. So to begin, I'll give their names, and then they'll be introducing themselves. They'll each take 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then the next round I'll have a question for them. They'll have 1 minute to respond, and we'll do several questions. Then if there's time at the end, I'm hoping to wrap this up by 7:30 and get you home before too late. But there may be time at the end for questions if there's something that we didn't cover here. Unfortunately, we might run out of time, and then you'll get to mingle with them afterwards and ask them the questions that you have. So let's get started. The first candidate is Christy Chavatari, and Matthew Curran, Tom Fisher, Skip Hoder, Brad Lewis, and Bob McFall, Bonnie McLean, Charlie Rogers, and Fred Shipley. Those are the 9 that are currently running for the ACCCA board. You'll see another name on the ballot, but that gentleman had to withdraw from the race. And then over on the other end, we have Dr. Brian Hester and Bob McKenzie running for the council. So let's get started. And first, we'll start with Christy on this end with an introduction. By the way, Jackie is back there. Once she's got 30 seconds left, she'll hold up a little yellow sign for you. Thank you.
I first want to thank all of our residents, the board, and our community manager for this opportunity to serve as a candidate for the Anthem Community Council Country Club representative. I'm honored and humbled to be an active participant for this position. My professional career has provided me with many opportunities throughout the course of time to create a positive impact for individuals, medical providers, and practices. As a registered nurse, I function in several capacities: hospitals, offices, schools, as an independent contractor with healthcare agencies, policy and procedure consultant, and most recently as a clinical manager for a natural medicine office. I've experienced many years of successful interpersonal communication that have resulted in favorable situational outcomes. I'm a motivated individual who seeks to add merit to this position through my commitment and my competency. I will be a vehicle of voice between our residents and board, bringing forth new ideas, recommendations, and proposed actions that will enhance our outstanding community, as well as provide for incremental improvements. Thank you.
Well, my name is Matthew Curran. I really appreciate this opportunity to put my name in for the election process for the ACCA board. Just to give you a little bit of background on myself and my family, we've been community members and full-time homeowners for the last 6 years. My wife, Allison, and my daughter, Abigail, absolutely love and enjoy the community along with myself. We participate in all facets of the community, from the community center, the dog park, all the parks, the country club. And my aim for putting my name in for this election is to help preserve the beauty of this community, learn more about the community, and also to go further my education and support the community. I have a lot of previous experience as an owner's representative, working on large real estate and commercial projects. Currently, I'm the CFO of an international sales company. And we go through a lot of regulatory and, we have a lot of regulatory needs and oversight that I think would be pertinent to this position. And I feel like I can bring a lot to the community and be an example for the rest of the community members here. So I appreciate this opportunity and thank you for your time this evening.
Good evening. My name's Tom Fisher, and a bit about me is I'm from southeastern Washington. I graduated college up there, and after college started working for a nonprofit. I was the controller of that organization for 10 years. After that, I moved into a career in commercial lending, and so I was the commercial team lead for a large regional bank. And then the last 2 years of my commercial lending career, I was the chief lending officer for a small community bank. While I was in the lending world, I decided to enter the bar and grill world. And so we purchased a bar and grill, and today we own 4 of those and 3 self-storage facilities. After the world experienced COVID, I decided to leave the lending world and focus on our businesses with the real goal of moving out of the managerial day-to-day operations and build a team that I could be just in the ownership role. So that's more or less where we're at today. So 2 years ago, my wife and I bought a house here in the Anthem Country Club. Up to today, at the end of 23, I was appointed to the board, to the current board, and have spent the last couple of months trying to catch up on what everything going on, figure out all of that intricacies of everything that happens with the committees and everything else that's going on with the club. So really for the next, I decided to run again to try and continue to help influence the vision of where the country club is going, the country club community is going, and look forward to the opportunity.
You saw a stop. My name is Skip Hoder. My wife and I have been Anthem residents for a little over 20 years. I started my career in education and moved to business, where I worked for the Gillette Company. And during my tenure, I was involved in sales, marketing, finance, and management positions. I believe my work experience has been beneficial to me in volunteering for many things that I've done since I've moved here. My last years with Gillette prior to my retirement were with 2 divisions. I was 5 years in the United Kingdom as the president of Western Europe, which actually was a great assignment when you live overseas. It was really great. I returned to Boston and was charged with reorganizing all of the internal operations of Gillette. On completion of the reorganization, I was assigned to the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Duracell North America. And then we retired to Anthem. I volunteered. Initially, I worked with AMGA, which is the Anthem Men's Golf Association, for 5 years. I got involved with a fundraising effort called Shoe Boxes for Soldiers, which I did for 3 years, and it moved on and actually became a bigger organization. We owned a home in Sierra Pines in Show Low, and I was a director and the finance treasurer there. Been director on the board for the last 2 years, the liaison to the policy committee. I have 1 son in the club, 1 son in Parkside. I know I have to move along. All 11 of us live here with the grandchildren. There are 5 of them. They've gone through the schools here. I couldn't be happier with the place that I live. And I look forward to keeping it the place that's the happiest. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brad Lewis. I have lived in Anthem for over 20 years now in the country club. And I moved here from the Houston area where I started a business back in 1995 that is an event planning company. And so that has taken me to many different places around the United States, still does, planning events. And every time I come back here, I know I'm in one of the best communities in the country. And whenever I go around the world, I know when I get back to Anthem, I'm in one of the best communities on earth. This is a place full of people who are interesting, kind, giving, and very wonderful neighbors. And I think that any of us who have the ability and the desire to step up and do our part occasionally should run for the board and get on and see if we can do our bit to do good and make our community a better place. What I really think about what's going on right now in Anthem is there is a change in the wind, and you can see it with 10 people originally, now down to 9, running for 3 positions. And as I heard, we've never had anything like that happen. And I think that that is due in part to so many people moving into Anthem from the West Coast and the North. We've got a lot of new people living in our community now. And so we have a lot of interest in what's going on with our community, how we can make things a little bit better, how we can draw on the knowledge that some of these people have brought with them from where they came from. And I would love to be a person who can be a part of that and make Anthem Country Club a better place to live. And thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob McFall. My wife and I first visited Anthem the 4th week that the sales office was open and signed a contract at that time. So we've been residents in Anthem Country Club up on Stonemark Drive since 2000, 24 years. If you play the 5th hole, the second shot, if you hit it to the right, you got bunkers there. I'm the house you hit the golf ball over the bunkers into the backyard. That's me. My career spanned 43 years as a commercial banker, focused on commercial real estate financing as well as bank branches, working for community banks, regionals, and nationals. The one thing that I learned right in management training out of college is that part of your job description is giving back to the community. Being engaged in your neighborhood. And over 43 years, that's just part of my DNA. You find things you're passionate about. You find those nonprofit organizations, those charities, those industry organizations that you want to contribute to make better and help and see them grow and flourish. And that led me to join the finance committee here in the country club 9 years ago. After 5 years, I rolled off for 2 years and then have been back on the finance committee for 2 years and learned a lot about the organization, a lot about the HOA during that time.
Bonnie McLean, can you hear me? Now, can you? So my name is Bonnie McLean. I'm running for the ACCA board. My husband and I are full-time residents at Anthem. We live very close to Ironwood. We're very involved here. We're active golf members. We're on the bocce team. We work out, we swim here. We've gotten to know a lot of people. Although we haven't been here 20 years, we have gotten very involved in the club. But we have been in a country club environment for over 20 years. We transferred most recently from Aspen Glen Country Club in Carbondale to this club about a year ago, which is another invited club. So we're very familiar with invited. While at Aspen Glen, I served on the Design Review Council for about 6 years. The Aspen Glen Club was much smaller than Anthem. We only had 200 residents at that time. Now it's all built out. It's just boomed. We reviewed new home builds, landscape designs, paint colors, window and roof replacements. You name it, we reviewed it and approved it or disapproved it. We met once or twice a month, depending on the agenda. Sometimes it would be for hours just to get through the agenda. We went to the new homes to confirm they were in compliance with design guidelines and on schedule. I learned a great deal from that. But during that time, I also did various changes to my own home. So I experienced the design review from the residents' point of view. We added a new level to the house. We added an in-ground fire pit. We added a kitchen, all of those, and a big statue at the beginning of our driveway. We had 1.3 acres. We added new landscaping. All of that had to be approved. Has it already been that time? Oh, for Bonnie, you need a female on this board. Look at my bio. Anyway, been a great learning experience. I love Anthem. I'm here for a long time. I will add value to this club. Please vote for Bonnie McLean. Sorry.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Charlie Rogers. My wife and I moved here from California. I comment down there earlier. I don't know whether that was negative or positive, but anyway, we moved here 2.5 years ago. We absolutely love the place. 29 years ago, we actually came down here for our honeymoon and came back 3 or 4 more years after that. And oddly enough, here we are, 20 odd years later that we've moved down here. From a background point of view, let me see, where do I want to start? Spent 3 combat cruises to Vietnam, came back, started night school and started to work for the American Stock Exchange as a file clerk. Fast forward 50 years later, worked for 6 different stock exchanges in various capacities and retired as chairman of the board of the Chicago Stock Exchange. My wife and I have 5 children, 5 grandchildren, and thank God none of them still live with us. Nobody has a record, nobody's on drugs, so I think we're way ahead of the game. From an involvement in the community, at my former club, I served as member at large, secretary, vice president, and president of the advisory board to the club ownership. And when we were in Pennsylvania, I spent 18 months as president of a homeowners association there. So I'm hoping to bring the experience that I've gained through committee dynamics and actual association with clubs and involvement. Thank you.
Yeah, turn it on. It works better. These technical details. At any rate, my wife and I moved here in 2009 after snowbirding from Chicago for a couple of years. Needless to say, Chicago is a good place to be from at this point. I've been involved in the community pretty much ever since we moved here. The first committee opening that was available was the Communications Committee, and I signed up for that in the fall of 2009. Since then, I served on the Lifestyle Enhancement Committee. That's a Del Webb name, as you know, and it's actually our Architectural Review Committee. I was part of that committee when we did our first revision of the residential design guidelines, which was a pretty enormous task at the time. Currently, I serve as chair of the Finance Committee, which I joined in the fall of 2016, which was about the time we heard from our reserve experts that our roads didn't have an infinite life. So we've spent most of the past several years trying to build up our reserve fund so we can keep the roads even better than Del Webb made them, which actually doesn't take all that much since they skimped on a lot of areas, as we know. Our investment policy restricts us in our governing documents to safe and guaranteed investments. Having said that, we have managed since the pandemic to raise the yield on our investment funds from about 0.25% to almost 4%. And we've lengthened the maturity and built the fund up from 39% funded to about 85% funded now at about $10 million. We still have a ways to go. I'm a retired professor from DePaul University. The good news is, and since I was in finance, we had a lot of consulting opportunities, and unlike the liberal arts people who were extremely jealous. So I've been a learner ever since, and I intend to continue to be so, helping everyone else out. Thank you.
Good evening, Anthem. My name is Dr. Brian Hester, and I have been an Anthem resident for a little over 20 years. And I've got the distinct privilege to start a business from scratch here to build it from the ground up. Over the course of the last 20 years, actually employ over 40 local Anthem residents, but take that business to generating over 7 figures in revenue. And when we start talking, about qualifications, I could give you a laundry list of things that I've done to help be successful, but I'm just like you. I'm a neighbor, I'm a friend, I want to be involved in the community. I've been working so dang much in this community. Back to Health, we recently created a transition plan and actually are in the process of transitioning that business to another doctor and his wife. We went from a small business in the venture professional court, in the Gateway Office Park and the Venture Professional Court. So I've kind of moved down Venture Drive, but more importantly, I've taken care of quite a few people in this room over the course of my career here in this town. And so now that I'm not working till 7, 8 o'clock every night, my goal is to take the skills that I've learned and how to be an entrepreneur, how to connect our community more and help local business owners, but more importantly, spend more time with my neighbors and help continue to protect the Anthem that we moved here and we've known to grow and love. My lovely wife and I, we often talk about just what Brad said about how great our community is and how we come to appreciate what we have. And so we are certainly enjoying the opportunity to sit before you and just ask for a seat at the table. Maybe I win, maybe I won't, but I just ask for you to open your heart, have an honest conversation. And, we're only the sum of our smallest part, so we want to do our share. So thank you.
Hi, I am Bob McKenzie. First of all, I'd like to thank you for showing up on a cold night like tonight. I'd also like to thank you for your support in the past. This is not the first time I've run, and I appreciate your vote. I'm asking for it tonight, by the way. And I would also like to thank my lovely bride for putting up with me. I'm a retired CPA. I'm also retired from being a government affairs consultant and a political consultant. When I was working, I worked for almost 7 years for a state senator. I was his chief of staff. I was a committee director and a committee consultant. I ran an operation of 26 people, which is not dissimilar from the size of the Anthem staff. I know what it means to be fiscally responsible. I think our history with the ACC demonstrates that. I think I can still add value. We've got projects in the works that I'm anxious to continue to help with. So I need your vote. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So for the first question, we're going to go with number 2, which is similar for both the Anthem Country Club and the Anthem Council. The question is for the ACCCA board members or board candidates, what is your leadership philosophy and how have your experiences shaped it? And how would that philosophy add value to the board if elected? And then for the council board members, board candidates, sorry, please comment on your skills and experiences that you believe position you well as an ACC director. So this time we'll start with Matthew. I think we'll just continue on. You'll just answer the question. I mean, it's so similar. And then we'll come back around and Christy will be the last one. So take it away. And you have 1 minute. If the stop sign goes up, you can still finish a sentence or a thought.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question. My leadership philosophy has first been to hire people that probably have a better expertise than me. And then from there, a lot like the council and the committees, is to invest a lot in education, training, and support, and then building a sense of community. I think when people understand their jobs and feel welcome coming into their workspace, you can get a lot more out of them. And you can do that by focusing a lot on educating them and explaining what they're going to be doing. In the past, I've worked really well at delegating through the people that I've hired, and usually that's engaging consultants or individuals that I've sought out that just I feel are more educated than myself. And then I think good leadership, you need a very, very high level of transparency and accountability. So I think after you've educated people, you've created a strong sense of community. It's about having transparency about how things operate, but then also holding yourself accountable and those individuals accountable. Thank you.
I would say my leadership philosophy is really kind of twofold. One, inclusion is really a big deal for me to make sure everybody has a seat or a voice at the table, no matter if it's through an email or through actually being present. And then I also agree a lot with education. I've always had the idea of I don't want to be the smartest person in the room because then we know where that goes. So I always like to hire people smarter than me and really looking for this, to hire my weakness and really build a stronger team around me. And that's really what I've always tried to do in the businesses that I own, and bring people around me to a level that they understand what the goals are. And I think that really translates into what the board is trying to do, has been doing throughout the Anthem community, is listen to what people are looking for, don't have a personal agenda, and build strengths around it to help the entire community.
I guess my leadership philosophy is pretty simple. I always have provided for open discussion and consensus with the people I work with. I think that was evident and very successful with dealing with 14 different countries in Western Europe, along with different languages, different cultures, different thoughts about how going on to a particular issue. And if you get everyone to agree and to think about it in a room, it works well.
I would say my leadership philosophy just developed for doing large events. That's a project manager kind of situation where you have to bring people together with certain ideas. You have to be creative and you have to work with a large budget. So the best philosophy I have for leadership is be prepared and lead by example. So if I'm the one who's in charge of an event and I'm the one who's holding everybody to a certain standard, then I'm leading by example and they can reach that standard. I also am a very big believer in the vendors that I use. I have them all over the country, and I have some that I've been working with for over 20 years. I think 25 years. So maintaining relationships and remembering that people are the best asset that you have is very important in my leadership philosophy.
I think when it comes to leadership, there's two focuses. There's the business world, and then there's the community service world where we've served as in leadership capacities, whether it's with our church, with an industry organization, or with our HOA. You know, at work, it's about developing your people, developing your staff, getting to the point where you can grow from being the mentor to being their coach. I was told early on in my career, a good coach is somebody who loses their right-hand man because they either got promoted or stolen by the competition. Not much different than what's going on in college football coaching these days. Those are signs of that you pat yourself on the back rather than kick yourself and go, darn it, if I wouldn't have worked so hard developing my team into being so successful. As far as organizationally, it's about listening and listening, whether it's to your stakeholders, whether it's to your committees. Your committees roll up their sleeves and get in the weeds. They spend many more hours than the board will ever spend looking into things such as policies, policy exceptions, roads, the finance and budget. They have all the experts in there. People that wear their hats on these committees want to be on those committees because they bring something of value, whether they're architects or CPAs or business people. And then listening to the experts, you have to listen to your general counsel, your CPA, you have to listen to the contractors you hire to get their input. If you do that, leadership isn't that tough. You've got the facts in front of you that your resources have shared with you. And if you do that, I think leadership becomes much more as a consensus, as Skip said earlier.
Well, I'm an industrial engineer. I like to take on a transformational / democratic leadership style. What that means is I like to motivate and inspire groups to make positive changes. That's transformational. But I want participation and input from members, which is democratic. I like to work as a team because I don't have all the answers.
Tough question. I think leadership really starts with communication. If you're leading a group of people, they need to understand exactly what you want accomplished. You both need to be on the same page. And you need to give people the opportunity to excel. I think developing people is very important because the group that's sitting here on the board, we're not going to be here, whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 years from now. And we've got to communicate to other people, train them, and make sure that there's a succession to various positions, whether it's like my career, moving up in the corporate structure or on the board. But you need to develop people and make sure that they understand the goal that you want accomplished. And my key with working with stock exchanges and on trading floors, you got to keep a sense of humor. You got to be able to handle yourself under stress. And with me, I deal with stress every day. I open the front door and see how many Amazon packages my wife has ordered. So it's like, so you got to be able to deal with stress. Thank you.
My basic leadership philosophy has always been to lead by example, but mostly you have to be curious enough and be a good enough listener to not only hear what people are saying, but to take it to heart. As a professor, I was always insistent that I was learning more than I was giving my students. I was a continuous learner, and I expect to keep that up. My second basic premise was always take your responsibility seriously, but never take yourself seriously. That's a trap which has gotten many people, and I'll leave it at that. I believe my experience will assist me in keeping this up, and I intend to continue serving this community no matter what. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. I would say my leadership style is all about connection. You know, we talked about inclusion and we've talked about leveling up and guiding people, but here's the thing, there's a saying that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And one thing I've learned being in this community, having a business in this community, is not to hire for skill, but to hire for passion. And I'm looking for people that care. I don't want somebody to work with that just shows up and does the minimum. I want people like these gentlemen talked about that roll up their sleeves. They care about this community as much as we do, but they want to get involved and they want to make hard decisions and have honest conversations. And I think that's what's lacking. We can agree to disagree, but doesn't mean we don't want the same thing. It's just how we go about it to paint the picture for what's going on with our community. And so my leadership style, if you were to sum it up, you know, I think it is about connection. It's about connecting different views, taking people from where they're at, getting to where we're all trying to go collectively. And in the process, making friends and establishing, again, the connections.
Hi. Am I supposed to identify myself again? Nobody can read my thing. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, I think my leadership philosophy is probably based on something I heard ages and ages ago. Everybody's got two ears and one mouth, and they should use them in that order. I like to listen. I don't know that I have a particular leadership philosophy. If I want to go after something, I build a constituency for it, and eventually we get there, or not. It depends. I've been here 20 some odd years, full-time for the last 14. We bought our home 22 years ago, I think. Oh, thank you. 22 years ago. First thing I did was start attending committee meetings back when we had committees, and basically learned what Anthem was all about and what was going on. So that's it. I'm told to stop.
My approach is primarily delegated leadership, as I feel this gives my team and my leaders equal power. I will provide guidance. However, I like the team to work how and when they need to. I'm able to make decisions, provide structure and vision, delegate, inspire, and also help in the production of quality work.
All right, thank you all. Okay, the next question will start with Tom. And it will be question number 4 for the ACCA candidates as well as the council. Is there any issue affecting the board that you're running for that you believe is a high priority and which you would like to address if elected? And if you don't have any thoughts on that, you can just fill up the time with whatever you want to.
You want to hear a song? You don't want me to sing. You know, I don't have a singular issue that I believe or have overarchingly heard as an issue at this time. I do believe that our highest priority as part of the board is to maintain the safety, the financial, and the aesthetics of our community. And I guess that's kind of the premise that I always look at when we're addressing issues or variances or other things that are coming up to the board is really looking at the community that we live in. What do I want it to look like while I'm here? And what do I think the people will want it in the next 5, 10, or 20 years? And so really governing by the idea of safety, financial security, and then the aesthetics as well as, you know, where all of our properties are. We have roughly a stop sign in front of me. I will yield my time to Skip.
Okay. I think there is one key issue that I would continue to look after and move forward to, and that would be providing reserve funds that we have in our budget, the financial stewardship of taking a look at what we need for our roads. Fred mentioned it earlier. We're around $10 million, but we need more. And I think it's inherent upon us to continue to build that fund and do a regular review of what we need and make adjustments to our budget as we move forward. That would be my main thing.
My main thing is something that I hear a lot when I'm speaking with people, that we would be much better off in the Anthem Country Club if our country club was owned by us and not by a third-party corporation that has no interest in doing anything but making a profit off of us. And I know that there is a group right now, and this is why I think it's urgent, who has put in a lawsuit, and they are trying to sue so that we would not be required to actually pay and be members of this club. And I know that in the community that I lived in Texas before here, which was in Katy, it was Falcon Point, I received a letter one day in the mail out of nowhere saying that in the courts in Texas, it was decided that you did not have to be a member of a club just because you lived in that community. So there is precedent out there, and I am very concerned that this is going to come forward. They might win. And in Falcon Point, we lost half of our membership in about a week. And that would be devastating to the country club if that happened to us. So that's my main concern at the moment.
I think as I look at high priority, I don't see any issue on the table today. I think our current and past board members are doing a great job of keeping things in order and keeping us happy. But as both Tom and Skip said, 2024 is the start of a new phase for Anthem Country Club, us as residents. We're going to start spending not 3 million in our operating budget, but 5 million a year. We have reserves built up. We're going to continue to build it up, and we're on track to make this happen. The good news is there's no capital call coming. We don't see that. We're managing that well. And kudos to those who served on the finance and the board in the past to get us to this point. But going forward, we need to be good stewards in how we manage that. We've got a great manager in Margaret that helps us through those decision-making processes by providing us information. But that's the new Anthem Country Club. Repair and replace our roads. $15 million over the next 7 years is the new nut that we need to manage. And so as a finance person, I hope I can bring the talents and skill set needed to help manage that.
I agree with all that. But I don't have any issues at this time. The only thing I would suggest is that possibly we get a little better gate security. I have vendors knocking on my door, and I'm pretty far into the club. Out of nowhere, they come in and they knock and trying to sell me windows. So that's it.
Hi. I hate bringing up problems without having a solution. But I personally have a problem with what I've seen around the club, and that's the speed of the cars around here. I know that when walking my dogs, it's just amazing how fast some of these people are going, even on the side streets and the cul-de-sacs. The dogs, if they see a rabbit or whatever, they're going to jump. So I tighten up all of the leashes on it. And the other problem, because I play golf a lot, is the number of people who just don't stop when they see a golf cart ready to cross. I always make the joke, if they stop, they're a golfer. If they drive through us, they're a tennis player. But I mean, those are the things that I see. And I'm really surprised that we don't have more incidents around the club. That's my issue.
Okay, thank you. I also believe that financial stability is essential to this club. Having said that, I hope we will soon get to the point where we can actually think about not just maintaining things, but starting to improve them. We've had some talk about establishing a capital investment fund. At the present time, I don't think we have the resources available to do that. We are making some progress with planned improvements down by the first gate, but that's all part of reserves. But we need to continue building on that and keep this place up. We are now a very mature community, but we don't want to be old and staid.
I don't experience, a lot of those same issues. I'm what I would call the younger generation. And so, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s and I've been in this community for a long period of time. So my goal and my hope is that we can continue to use critical thinking and kind of blend, old ways with new thoughts. I think there's a lot of things that have shown promise and have worked very well. I also think there's a lot of things and a lot of new concepts and ideas that we can get together, like I talked about before, and just share a perspective and come to a common ground to keep this community in the shape that we want it to be. And again, just what he talked about, we need to do some restoration to some things as opposed to just total maintenance. There are some things that need a redo. And so I think there's a lot of things to discuss. We're doing a great job, but we want to continue that if we're elected to the board.
Hi. As a member of the council, we deal with some pretty intricate issues. We try to be transparent. That's a high priority. We try to be fiscally responsible and keep a very healthy reserve balance. That's a high priority. We deal with enhancement funds, which is a piece of the sale of every home in the club. We've been investing that in projects. We're getting near the end of that rainbow. We're running out of room to build things. So we're going to have to look to use that fund to enhance or refurbish or keep in good shape the amenities we have. Influencing the board on these priorities really is not a problem. We all see pretty much the need for the transparency, the fiscal responsibility, et cetera. Okay, thanks.
As far as any issue affecting the ACCC that I believe is a high priority, I would prioritize to serve the residents of this community first and foremost and secure effective communication between the residents and the board. In addition to that, I would also like to address that we need to stay focused on prioritizing the ongoing needs of our great community. Again, maintaining some wise investment strategies, and we need to make sure that we keep ahead of our aging infrastructure. Thank you.
My direct answer would be no. I don't see any glaring issues or items that I think are, a high priority at this moment. I think what we really need to do is preserve the work of the past committees and boards, and then also set up the future boards and committees to be very successful. And inherently, I think a lot of that is financial security. It costs a lot of money to maintain the beauty of the community, and we really love and want to protect that community. So that's what I see.
Right. Thank you all for those. Now, for this last question from me, we're going to change it up just a little bit. I'm going to give the question to the council candidates, and it will be number 6. And then we'll go over to the ACCA board. This one will start with Skip, and that will be question number 5. I'll read them first, read yours, and then before they begin, I'll read number 5 for the audience. So number 6, how will you balance the role of representing the country club community with serving the needs of Anthem as a whole? And we'll start with Bob this time.
Okay. I think I've done that pretty well. Part of the balancing act we do is to keep in mind that ACC, the Anthem Community Council members, represent the entire community and not just a piece of it. But we also, oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. I was describing the fact that I don't think I've failed at balancing the role of a representative. I live in the club. I keep the club's interests in mind, but on the Anthem Community Council, I represent the entire community. And I make my decisions based on what I see are the benefits or whatever for the entire community. Getting to know the board members of this board has been a big benefit to me. I come to the meetings, I know the people, and I enjoy that relationship. Thanks.
I would say for me, my goal and my hope is to get, to take that balance. There's a lot of people in our community, especially the country club, that own local businesses. And I would love to see the ACC have more of an active role in helping support businesses with new vision. A lot of people took a hit. I know personal people that their businesses have closed during COVID. A lot of people couldn't work because of laws. A lot of people were fortunate to keep their business open. And I think, with the shiftings that have happened with the chamber here in our community, I think there's a lot that can be done to connect the two and really support the people that live in not only the country club, but also the ACC as a whole.
Thank you. All right, starting with Skip for this one. All right, I got the wrong paper. How have you advocated new ideas and handled resistance? How have your approaches in driving change been influenced by your successes and failures?
What failures? Um, No, I can answer this fairly easily. When I moved back from Europe, I was put in charge of restructuring Gillette North America and all of the internal operations, which were sales planning, marketing, sales order processing, administration. It was a massive job. It took me, I think, 9 to 11 months, but I had to create working groups from each one of those departments and get someone, actually put someone in charge of each one of those groups. We had multiple meetings and would hash out all of the issues. Probably the most difficult part was I had to remove 25% of the employees. So yeah, wasn't good, but working with human resources and the people that we had there, we were successful, but it was one of those things that I learned a lot from. And I've taken away that experience and used it this day in certain situations that I've been involved in with the board here or the board where I was a director at the HOA in Sholo. So it was a win-lose type situation. So that would be it, Margaret.
As a small business owner, you're kind of out there on the street, especially in the profession I'm in, which is event planning. And with the winds of change, the whole business changes. If it becomes not politically correct to hold large, elaborate events anymore, then your clients just dry up. So you have to be creative, and that's what I've had to do, is be creative and change. When I first started my business, the core business was large corporations, especially in the Houston area and down in the Southwest. And over time, they have slowly phased out doing large events. And so I turned to doing more private events. But then as the economy shifts, private events can dry up as well, no matter how wealthy the people are. And so then I've moved on to doing government style events and even working for a lot of schools. So you have to be creative in your thinking just with the winds of change. And so that's how I would balance with my work life versus helping out the Anthem community. Just try to see what's going on out there in the community, listen to people, be engaged, and implement those ideas as much as possible. Thank you.
Advocate new ideas. It's been a 3-word phrase that I've used throughout my career. Change brings opportunity. Now, I'm not saying opportunity is always good, but change brings opportunity. So communicating there is change in the wind to your staff leads to resistance from many. And communications will help get through that. I've been through bank mergers and acquisitions. I've been through bank closings where the FDIC's come in, and I've been part of those teams that have come in and taken over banks. And many times change isn't, the new ideas that come from change, you need to communicate and be patient in allowing those to nurture. They don't always work out. Sometimes faith is a part of that. Having faith in that manager, having faith in that leadership team can help you get through it. If you can get that buy-in, it's not guaranteed. You have to earn it.
Agree with him. However, I'm an industrial engineer. I worked in human resources for over 20 years. Customer relations is part of our business. So I was head of manager of benefits. I can give a couple examples in that role where I had to push an idea through. One of them was after my budget request for a new software program was turned down, I instituted my own 2 computer processes that eliminated and streamlined our annual open enrollment benefits program for 300 employees. From handwritten documents into a computer program that summarized answers onto a spreadsheet. It's pretty simple, but it was pretty, I'm not a computer programmer, but I figured that out. I worked really hard at doing that so that I could then forward all my information to payroll. The old process would take months long into a month long, and I streamlined it down to a 1-hour program. I was able to show that we were wasting a lot of employee time and justified the purchase of a standardized software program. That happened to 2 different employers that I worked with. I just drove me nuts, but I got it done. That's it.
I could see in the audience that most of you are of age to have been invested in the stock market. And if you look back, I've got a 50-year career in stock exchanges. So you can imagine the amount of change that the stock market has had to gone through. The simplest one being changing from fractions to decimals, computerization, automation, challenges from European exchanges. And during that time, as I mentioned, starting out as a file clerk, and my heyday when I ran the trading floors at the Pacific Exchange, I had 250 people reporting to me. The way I got things accomplished was I always wanted to know people individually. I'm lucky I can remember who's in my foursome on any given day. So I used to have everybody have nameplates where I could walk up to them and address them individually. So again, it sort of goes back to my earlier point of management philosophy. Communication is really important. Thank you.
Well, in terms of new ideas, as a retired professor, especially when teaching undergraduates, the whole concept of idea was new and always met with resistance, as you might well expect. But having said that, the main challenge is to get them to accept that what you're giving them is something of value. Sometimes you run into resistance, but sometimes that resistance is valid and you need to change your approach. And that's always been my philosophy, and I intend to keep that up in the future. Thank you.
I have learned over the years to listen to others, and I've also sought to be respectful to their ideas and thoughts. I've also encountered breakdown when these goals have not been attainable, or also when communication is derailed. I found that interpersonal communication is vital to success.
While advocating new ideas and experiencing my failures, I think it's really taught me to understand the objectives of all the parties involved. Really, you need to understand what their motivations are and what's going to get them to have equity and buy-in to the new ideas. And then a lot of patience. I think anything I've ever done takes a lot longer than I ever expected. And so you have to see things through and have a lot of resilience as well. And I also feel it's helped me strengthen a lot of my communication skills, whether that's active listening, being able to silo ideas and separate them out. And then also a willingness to pivot and change my own ideas and listen to other people's perspectives. So.
As a small business owner, I look at advocating for new ideas as like planting seeds. You put them in the bucket, add a little dirt, some water, and some sunshine, and watch them grow. However, my successes and failures have taught me that sometimes you need more sunlight or more water, and you can't be convicted to one side or the other. You have to be convicted to the idea, but listen to everybody else and their concerns as to what that idea may be. but your path may need to be flexible along the way. So in my plant analogy, you also can't be afraid, or you have to know when to put Roundup on it and kill it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now we have, I think, if anyone has a question in the audience, we have time for one. We would like those questions to be, or that question to be something that is a little more forward thinking about like what potentially the candidates' plans are, rather than something that is, from the past on a board. So is there anybody that has a question? If you have one, I'll bring the microphone to you so you can voice, or you can say your question and the online audience can hear. All right. But they won't be able to hear you if we don't have the mic. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Darlene Burns and I live in the club. But I have a question and it just came to me here at the end. You seem to be all talking about people have to be able to accept change. And I'm sitting here with my friends and we're going, what are you talking about? You're not talking about anything in particular. So what kind of changes are you all seeing that you think that we might not be acceptable to wanting to have in the club? I mean, it's like, the question I understood was, if we vote for you, what would you prioritize? But now all of these answers given were people have to be acceptable to change. People have to listen to us. Basically, we know better and we have some plans for change. Tell us what the changes are.
All right. Brad, do you want to try it? You don't all have to answer if there's, but take 30 seconds or so if anybody has any ideas.
Sure. Hey, Darlene. So definitely, I think the big change that's in the wind right now is what is happening with our club. Are we going to stay an invited club, or is somebody else going to buy our club? Somebody has already come in and put in an offer from Taiwan. There was a group that came in and put in an offer to buy it. They didn't get it. We know that the Apollo group wants to get rid of Invited. That's why they rebranded it Invited. That's why they've been talking about doing an IPO, taking it public again and getting rid of it. There is change coming. Is it going to be another third party who owns our club, or is it going to be us? That's what I would like, to form a committee and look at the possibilities of what we can do to avoid that. Because we right now, for the last 20 years, plus have had, well, since they sold it, I guess 16, 18 years ago, we've had Club Corp. And they are directly tied to the value of our homes, to the experiences that we have in our daily lives in this club. And quite frankly, in my opinion, and I've been through 2 of these clubs now in my lifetime, their philosophy is take away as much as possible and raise your dues in January. It is not the same as the other private clubs that I have been involved with through doing events and through my family, where you have an equity in the club. Totally different experience. If we can do something about that, I would like to. That's the change that I'm looking at right now.
Darlene, thanks for your question. 2 things. One, and I think many of us up here addressed that question based off of how it was presented to us, more as a general question, more toward your leadership and your management rather than Anthem Country Club. So that's why you got the softball answers, or the answers you did, rather than talking about our club. From my standpoint, I have no agenda in joining the board and the club as far as what change will be. I applaud Margaret, who's been our manager for 8 years. Before that, Jody, who was here. They've done a phenomenal job with their knowledge. Our board has done an excellent job with the information they had in managing like our reserves. The things constantly change, and managing our communications and managing our roads and our gates and our contracts with our three major contractors that total $2 million. I don't see any drastic change. I don't want to see any change. I like what the path is we're going down with the 4 pillars we have in our mission statement. And with that, I'll pass it on.
All right, I'll address this as well, I guess. Change is inevitable. Having said that, the biggest change that I've observed in the time we're here is that we are now not the pioneering community we were when people first started moving here. We're a mature community, and we have to deal with that. That doesn't mean that we're changing things for the sake of change. We're changing things or adapting to the change in our community. Part of that has been a change in demographics in the community, which will probably continue. And all we need to do is make sure we hear from our residents what they think and pay attention to it and deal with it.
I think change could be anything as obvious as the depreciation of assets that are in the community right now or future assets. The shifting demographic, I think, is something that is changing. And then also the encroachment or building of other communities to the south and to the north of us and how we would deal with that in the future as well. No, I mean, like the Taiwanese semiconductor plant, for instance, it's bringing a lot of homes, very close to us, anywhere from Happy Valley, Joe Max, to the north of us in New River. Those individuals are going to want to interact in this community because of how nice it is. And then I think, we need to understand what that's going to look like. Absolutely not. I think we need to protect our community from people that aren't paying for this community.
Right. Everyone's had an opportunity to answer that question. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up because it's been an hour now. Hopefully our candidates will stay. If you'd like to meet with any of them individually, you can come up and mingle afterwards. For those of you who are online, thank you for joining us. This will also be recorded and posted online in the next few days when Jim gets it ready. If you had any questions online, we didn't have time to address them if they came in online. Jim will send them to me and we'll figure out how to get those questions answered. Otherwise, you can also put them out on social media if you'd like and see what kind of responses you get. So thank you. Thanks again for coming. For all of you for the work that you put into preparing for this. We appreciate you being willing to step up and good luck. I think I could work with any one of you. So, and I hope there's a lot, 3 seats and a lot of candidates. I hope to see some of you on our committees in the future. So thanks again. Thanks for coming and have a great evening.
Thank you, Margaret, for all the work you did to put this together.